Production support for the weekly special is provided by IU School of Public Health Bloomington, addressing public health needs by preventing disease, promoting health, and improving quality of life across the state and around the world through research, teaching, and community engagement. The Al Cobain Recognition Endowment Fund, established by friends and family of Al Cobain to support jazz initiatives on WTIU and WFIU. And WTIU members, thank you.
Throughout Indiana history, Hoosiers have used the power of education to change their communities.
From founding institutions within the state to transforming the country at large. Journey from Indiana Avenue to Indiana University in a new jazz crossroads. Travel the banks of the Wabash with the Sisters of Providence and Indiana's only saint. Battle alongside the soldiers of Shiloh with famed author Lew Wallace. And welcome fusion rock band Veseria to the studio. Explore Indiana ideas that shaped our state.
And stories that you'll only find here on the Weekly Special.
Welcome to the Weekly Special. I'm Erica Sagone.
And I'm Daryl Neer. Well, history always plays an important role here on the Weekly Special, and Erica, this week is going to be no exception as we focus on the role of education on history.
And we're going to get to know some influential thought leaders who some you might be hearing about for the first time and some maybe you're familiar with, and how they inspired not only Hoosiers, but really the world.
Well, it only takes the spark of a few to inspire thousands, from civic moments to monumental music.
The dawn of the 1960s was ripe for revolution. The civil rights movement sparked debate about cultural divide, and in towns across America, integration took hold. For Indiana Avenue, the epicenter of Indianapolis's jazz scene, the end of forced segregation led to downtown expansion, and the once dynamic corridor disappeared. Yet 60 miles south, something was stirring at Indiana University's School of Music. In the 1950s, students and musicians such as David Baker, Al Cobain, and Jerry Coker were playing jazz around town and around campus. The music threatened to infiltrate the hallowed classical-only halls of the school. Such was the sentiment that anecdotes describe students being thrown out of practice rooms for daring to play jazz. The changing social and political climate of the 1960s, however, provided an unexpected opening to bring jazz from the hidden campus corners to the IU music halls. It was the summer of 1963 when 250,000 civil rights supporters gathered at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, listening to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. dream of a better world. Within the decade, he would be dead. But his legacy would send a ripple that would stretch from D.C. to Bloomington. As David Baker explains, all of a sudden there was this interest in diversity at the degree level. School was just beginning to be integrated, and so consequently people became very interested in having some awareness of who black people were. The jazz history courses were beginning to gain some credibility. Increased interest meant newfound support, and by 1968, Indiana University formed one of the first jazz degree programs in the country. All that the university needed was a leader, and for that, they turned to a man rooted in Indiana jazz, David Baker. Born in Indianapolis in 1931, Baker grew up along Indiana Avenue at a time when the community still buzzed to the beats of jazz music. At Crispus Attucks High School, Baker discovered his love for Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker, as well as his natural talent for trombone. Yet it was outside the classroom walls where Baker honed his craft. As he explains, education took place in the street. We'd go around to the clubs listening and trying to get in. Because we weren't old enough, we'd put on our berets and our horned-rimmed glasses, draw mustaches on our upper lips, and hope it didn't rain. After years playing trombone with his group, the Dave Baker Quartet, Baker left the Avenue for the academic world of Indiana University, where he graduated with a master's degree in music in 1954. Over the next decade, he toured with such legends as George Russell and Quincy Jones. A devastating car accident, however, dramatically altered Baker's career. After lingering injuries forced him to abandon his trombone, he sought a new musical outlet. The choice was unlikely, especially for a jazz musician: the cello. Yet his new instrument inspired new musical paths, shifting his focus from performance to composition and education. By 1966, Baker returned to Indiana University to complete his doctoral studies. The timing was synchronistic. Jerry Coker, who played an instrumental role in the birth of jazz education at Indiana University, sought a successor to lead the newly formed jazz program. Baker's unique combination of street credibility and formal education made him the perfect candidate. For the next 10 years, Baker acted as sole educator, establishing fundamental components that would lead to the program's overwhelming success. First, he devised a diverse course offering that extended beyond customary music ensembles. Students could choose classes in such subjects as jazz history, jazz analysis, and the evolution of music. In addition, through his compositions, Baker helped bridge the gap between jazz and classical traditions, writing pieces that merged both genres in a form called third stream, strengthening his relationship with classical music faculty members. Finally, in a field where musical evolution occurs at lightning speed, he created a program that is able to adapt quickly. As Baker explains, we've had to keep our ears to the ground because it's been dictated by what the students need, but also by looking backwards and telling them, this is your legacy, but you can't stop here. The program's legacy hasn't stopped either. Today, the IU Jazz Studies program remains one of the most renowned in the world, producing a number of notable jazz musicians, as well as helping to create an enduring audience for the music. And it is a jazz legacy that is still being written. From the echoes of Indiana Avenue to the bustle of the Bloomington campus today, on the same worn paths, on the same spooning walls where legend says Hoagy Carmichael first penned Stardust, a new young jazz musician might stop, listen, and perhaps, like Carmichael, be inspired by the Indiana town around him.
To discover more about David Baker's extraordinary career or any of the jazz musicians profiled in recent weeks, be sure to visit the Nightlights page at indianapublicmedia.org. Erica, living in Bloomington, it's really easy to take for granted David Baker's influence, but this segment reminds us just how important he is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, education has played an instrumental role in the development of Indiana communities. For one adopted Hoosier, education eventually led to sainthood. Nearly 200 years ago, along the banks of the Wabash, Mother Theodore Guerin founded a ministry that would change Terre Haute and the world.
She grew up in France, always wanted to be a sister. Her mother did not want her to be because of some tragedies in the family. She lost 2 brothers through fire. Her father was murdered on his way home from the Navy. So she really had to take care of the family. And so finally, when Antrice Guerin was 23, her mom said, you know, I just know you're still interested in becoming a sister, so I'm going to let you go. Do what you need to do. Do what is your passion.
Joining the Sisters of Providence, Mother Theodore pursued a teaching ministry. In 1839, the king honored her as the best teacher in all of France. Shortly after, her superior, Mother Mary, asked Theodore to start a new ministry in a new world, Vincennes, Indiana.
She knew that her own health was a factor that would jeopardize the whole mission. So Mother Mary said, well, that's okay. If you don't go, we won't go. That's how much faith she had in her. She knew the mission would fail without her. But she did then end up, through the vow of obedience, saying, well, if it's going to fail because I'm not going, then I will reconsider. And who can I take with me? So she took 5 other sisters, all foundresses. We call them all brave women who came.
In July of 1840, Mother Theodore and her companion sisters set out on an arduous 3-month journey across land and sea, arriving at St. Mary of the Woods on October 22nd, where they immediately set to task.
When she arrived, there were 250,000 school-age children in Indiana. Of those 250,000, 50,000 of them had a school to go to. Anywhere in Indiana you went, the need was tremendous. So she opened up the college 9 months after she arrived here. July 4th, 1841, and it's the oldest Catholic women's liberal arts college in the country. So we're very proud of that.
The women faced tremendous adversities, including illness, exposure, and even arson, spurred by local anti-Catholic sentiment. By 1843, they had lost everything. But with support from France, Theodore began to rebuild, determined that the ministry succeed.
What got her out of bed every day, I think, was the mission. Her love for the sisters, her love for the mission of opening up schools, the love for the children, as well as her working with the sick poor. Cholera was very, very prevalent in those times. Lots of kids had lost their parents, so she built an orphanage for girls, and she opened up an orphanage for the boys. She found the way, she found the means. She didn't know the word no. Her avenue of help was from the business leaders of Terre Haute. She would cross over the river, go into town daily, and she dispelled their fears one by one by one through her relationship with them. Faith to her was bigger than any one religion. She would interact with all kinds of faith traditions here. She would interact with all kinds of people here that were anti what she was doing, whether it was opening up the schools or the orphanages. All of them, in the end, helped her succeed.
By the time of Mother Theodore's death in 1856, the Sisters of Providence led over a dozen schools, spanning from Evansville to Fort Wayne. For the next 50 years, the sisters continued to open high schools and colleges across the country in her name. In 1909, after a miracle healing of one of the sisters, Rome opened a case for Mother Theodore's canonization, a case that would remain open for nearly 100 years.
We thought, should we stop? Should we start? Should we continue this? We know she's a saint. We know that. Why do we need to continue? It's costing us a lot of money. It's costing us a lot of time. And we kept being convinced by the people who were not sisters, who loved her, said, do it for us. Do it for the world. The world needs to know she's a saint.
And in 2001, she proved it to the community of Terre Haute once again, healing one of the congregation's caretakers. 5 years later, Mother Theodore Guerin was officially recognized as a saint by Pope Benedict XVI, and the sisters began working on the creation of her permanent shrine.
We wanted it to be a teaching place. We wanted it to be a place of ministry, that people would learn from this. We're celebrating our 175th this year, and her spirit and her legacy are still alive and well, not only in the Sisters of Providence, but in all the people that have been touched by all the Sisters of Providence. So it's journey with a saint, not of a saint. Journey of a saint is, oh, well, here's her story. Let's learn about this woman of the past. Journey with a saint is, I'm going to walk with this woman right now. I'm going to learn about her life so she can touch me, tap into their own personal resources like she did, and live their life to the fullest. That's what a saint is.
To learn more about Indiana's only saint, St. Theodore Guerin, including directions to her shrine, visit spsmw.org.
And a new WTIU documentary explores the inspiring stories of the people who, like the Sisters of Providence, shaped our state alongside the Wabash.
Journey along the Wabash, one of the country's longest free-flowing rivers east of the Mississippi. Discover the dynamic stories of those who lived alongside a rapidly expansive waterway, like Tecumseh and his pan-Indian coalition attempt to repel early settlers. Behold the beauty of Indiana's most famous and historic river. Watch Along the Wabash, the story of Indiana's state river.
All Along the Wabash premieres right here on WTIU Monday, March 7th at 8 p.m. And WTIU will also broadcast another bicentennial legacy project that explores the untold story of Lew Wallace. Before becoming renowned for his book, Ben-Hur, Wallace was haunted by a different chapter in his life, the Battle of Shiloh. Here's a sneak peek.
Lew Wallace opened the second day of battle at Shiloh at 5:30 a.m. His 2 artillery batteries fired on the Confederate battery across Tillman Branch.
Wallace decided to move his division forward. He rode out into this field in front of the 1st Brigade, his favorite brigade. He turned his back on the enemy, lifted his hat. It was the signal for the troops to advance. There was a rousing cheer, and the 3rd Division moved forward.
The critical role Wallace plays here at Shiloh on the second day, here in Jones Field, is that he is smart enough to realize that if he lays his men down, has them lay down, that they will sustain a lot less casualties. You don't have to go to West Point to figure that out.
Even with Wallace's conservative tactics, the fighting was fierce. Wallace described some of the battle on the second day in his autobiography.
A round shot tore past me. I heard a noise behind me, a dull, heavy noise, a thud. And, turning involuntarily, I was in time to see an arm torn from the shoulder of a soldier and stiffened like a stick, its fingers all outspread, revolving end over end in the air.
In spite of the carnage, Wallace had to stay engaged with maneuvers on the field of battle.
And Wallace sees a golden opportunity just right here behind me, actually, to move around the Confederate left flank and report after report after report in the Confederate reports talk about we found Union forces behind us, behind us to our left and all that, and that's telling evidence that Wallace has outflanked that Confederate line. And so what no other commander by frontal assault was able to do any other point on the line during the second day, particularly the first part of the second day, Wallace is able to do by maneuver, by outflanking the Confederate line, and as a result, half the Confederate line has to fall back to a new position. Then he does it again. So in my opinion, Wallace is one of the stars of the second day. He's often accused of not doing very good and not getting in the battle and being timid and all that, but if I was one of Wallace's soldiers, I would much rather him be a little bit timid and not get me killed.
Shiloh ended up being the largest battle in Grant's 1862 spring campaign, and arguably the most important. Some have said the Confederacy's back was broken after this 2-day battle. One Confederate soldier lamented that the South never smiled again after Shiloh.
Shiloh was the first great bloody battle of the Civil War. There were 13,000 Union casualties. No one in the North was expecting this kind of casualty level.
And that has an obvious effect on the nation as a whole. Grant talks about, I realized after Shiloh that this is going to be a long and bloody war.
Just days after the battle at Shiloh, Wallace wrote to his wife Susan,
This soldiering business sadly deadens that very good thing so carefully cultivated by Christians, humanity.
Be sure to watch Lew Wallace, Shiloh Soldier, Ben-Hur Bard on WTIU Wednesday, March 9th at 9:30.
Their name is inspired by a different work of literature. Let's meet the Indianapolis band Veseria.
This has been my home since the day I was born, and on that night...
Jen put us all together, found us from different friends, and we got together in Brownsburg, Indiana at our bassist's home. We played in his jam room for about 4 hours and decided, yeah, this works and it's something we enjoy doing, so we just kept getting together and jamming until finally we were hashing out some songs. Veseria, it's the town that Frankenstein takes place in. It's the town of Veseria that the castle is in. And that was just really, really fitting just because we have all these different musical backgrounds and they're just kind of sewn together to create this monster.
It's like trying to play without a limb. Frankenstein's monster, we try to rely on each other to the point where if we're missing a limb, we're gonna be walking all gimp, We don't want that, that's not good.
The band really drives a lot of the power behind every song because of all those other elements and how talented every musician in our band is. We can't just go out and play these songs without the rest of the band there to support it.
Genre-wise, we kind of cover a few different bases. Mainly rock and roll, but we definitely dabble in folk. We definitely have some hints of punk in there. Controlled chaos, I think, is a good way to describe it.
We never set out to write a certain type of song. And what normally happens is one of us will bring a song to the table and then the rest of the band fleshes it out and makes it really, really powerful. We're a band of songwriters. Everybody in our band has written for Veseria. That culmination of different experiences that we're all having at the same time allows us to relate to our audience on a broader scale than it would if it was just one person.
We have cut through barbed wire, and when it's set up in flames, we'll call it a funeral fire, and with a hush.
I want, personally, I don't know what other band members, I want people who come to see our shows to just feel exhilarated. We do our very best. We put every ounce of energy that we have in our bodies into the show.
I hope that people experience what we experience on stage. And so we tend to turn our instruments up really loud with the hopes that they can experience that as well. So I hope there's a shared moment between us and the audience. We're all in it together and we're a part of the same song and the same moment together. I really don't know long-term what challenges await us, but I look forward to meeting them. I look forward to experiencing them with my 5 best friends. I don't know what the voyage is. I don't know where it's going to take us or where it's going to, but I know that the end point is not our focus. It's the journey there that's the focus.
And now, Veseria. Veseria's 2016 tour begins now. Check their website, veseriamusic.com, for a list of upcoming dates.
Well, that's all the time we have for this evening. Let's hear it one more time from Veseria.
Maybe I'm deaf, maybe I'm blind, maybe I'm sticking my fingers in my ears and covering my eyes. I don't know what you're looking for, but I am quite sure it ain't me. It ain't me anymore.
Production support for the weekly special is provided by IU School of Public Health Bloomington, addressing public health needs by preventing disease, promoting health, and improving quality of life across the state and around the world through research, teaching, and community engagement. The Al Cobain Recognition Endowment Fund, established by friends and family of Al Cobain to support jazz initiatives on WTIU and WFIU. And WTIU members, thank you.